Good evening, YouTubers. Reloading Bench back with you once again. It's been a minute or two since we've done anything related to this kind of stuff, as I've been quite preoccupied with my vintage craftsman restoration projects. I think in all I started with the table saw, which you saw. Then I think I progressed to the band saw, which you guys saw. No pun intended. And from there, it was a 10-inch drill press, which you guys didn't see. That was followed by a belt slash disc sander, which you guys didn't see, which was then followed by a band saw, which you didn't see, which was followed by another band saw. One will be for wood, one will be for metal. And that was followed by a router and plunge router and router table, Craftsman router table. And in between there, I think I worked in an old, pretty heavy-duty grinder with an amazing grinder stand. I'm not sure if the grinder stand was Craftsman, but back to some things that go boom. For those of you who don't know, or maybe for those of you who do, this is an old piece of history, an amazing piece of history. Ruger history, to be precise. This is a Ruger number 1, and some people will call this a rolling block. Some people will call it a falling block. And for those of you who know what that is, and the fact that I can insert this pencil thing as deep as I can, it is unloaded, because this is a single shot. I can't remember what this is called. You know, some people will say just a lever. It's not a lever. Again, I'll have to look up the fancy name for it because that escapes me at the moment. But the way you load it is you open the block, drop the block, slide a bullet in, single bullet, and pull this back, and it is ready to go boom. And I found this a few years ago at a local shop, and it was sitting on the consignment rack for almost 2 years when I actually looked at the tag. So I had bypassed it until one day, for whatever reason, it caught my eye, and I thought, well, let me see what that is. And when I looked at the price and the fact that it had been on the shelf for almost 2 years, and this was quite a number of years ago, I thought, well, let me just make some obscene offer. You know, I wouldn't call it a low ball. Maybe obscene's not the right word. You know, borderline low ball. Not quite low ball, but not the asking price, because I didn't need it, but I thought the cool factor was there. And lo and behold, the story behind this was a widow who was getting rid of her former husband's stuff. So, you know, there was no sentimental attachment to this particular thing because her husband had passed and she was just looking to get funds. And then I felt bad, so I upped my offer a bit. And once I learned the backstory, and they said yes, or she said yes, or her daughter, or whomever was managing the process said yes. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. So that was a score. And this particular Ruger number 1 is chambered in 30-06. And for those of you who are familiar with the Ruger number 1, you know, or you may know, they come in beautiful stock from the factory, in beautiful walnut finished stocks. And this is obviously not a walnut finished stock. This is a composite. But what made this kind of interesting is this particular stock is made by Bell and Carlson, who is still in business. And when I found out the age of this gun, based on the serial number, and speaking with Bell and Carlson, who no longer make this stock for this particular rifle, but back in when they were making these were all custom made. So you would have to send the rifle into them, and they were made and fit for, you know, bedded and everything for the exact rifle. So, you know, it wasn't like a mass-produced stock of today where you just buy the stock and slap it on, and it's a good enough fit. But what was interesting is there was, when I got it, a little bit of shimmy in the back end, little wiggle. And when I took the butt pad off, the 2 screws that are in here, and then pulled the butt pad off to tighten the bolt that goes all the way up here to the receiver. There was a piece of, it was a bag actually, a plastic bag that was rolled up, and it had the date of when that bag was put in there, because there was a note saying that the original stock's mount, pin, whatever, wouldn't fit this particular forend for whatever reason. Maybe it was too long, too whatever. And so they wrapped it up in plastic and wrote the note and stuffed it in there. And maybe I'll pull that out here in a full minute when I start to do this, because I will show you in a few minutes what I'm about to do with this particular very nice composite stock for the year that it was made. Again, generations ago, but again, very cool for its time. So I'm guessing the person who had this done was more of an outdoors person and didn't want the beautiful wood walnut stock damaged from, you know, either outdoor hunting or weather or other issues. But unfortunately, when whoever owned it passed, and the family that was selling it either didn't have the original walnut stock anymore, or didn't think that it was part of this, and didn't drop it off at the local shop to do the consignment. So I will be back in a minute to show what I'm going to do with this, and in between that, maybe I will take this butt pad off and show you the note, the very cool note that that came with it. So back in a few. All right, a little bit of oil. I'm a very big fan of Hoppy's oil. Phillips screwdriver and some slow patience. Looks like we've got a shorty screw up at the top and a longer screw down at the base of the butt. And again, Bell and Carlson. So when I originally went to do that same activity, and I looked, let me see if I can position this without damaging anything. When I went to look in here, I want to say I put it back in and I stuffed it pretty good. So let me hopefully take some tweezers. Oh yeah. And this is what I found originally. So I thought, oh, message in a bottle. And I unearthed that to find this particular screw thing. And then when I looked at the note, it was from September 24th, 2001. So the gun is from the 90s, and the stock is from 2001. So this is a 21-year-old stock. And the note said, original forearm screw. This is a very early action. So actually, no, I want to say it's much older than the 90s. I had thought the original stock was from the 90s, but again, 2000, based on my call to Bell and Carlson rather. But then when I look this up, I want to say this is much, much older, like 50s to 70s. This is a very early action, so that says something, and does not have the S-22 forearm nut on forearm hanger. So I guess this is the forearm nut on forearm hanger. Forearm was molded for a later, longer hanger. Will replace soon. So I'm hoping that's the original forearm hanger screw, or I might be screwed. So this stock was installed in September of 2001. Kind of September 21st, like not too long after 9/11. So interesting history. Interesting history. So I'll be back in a minuet. I've been watching the online auctions for years, waiting patiently for one of these to come up. I've seen a whole bunch of companies, maybe whole bunch is not accurate. I've seen a number of companies that make stocks for the Ruger number one. But if you've ever seen an original stock for a Ruger number one, the walnut is done just so well. And, you know, obviously it's cut precisely for the rifle. God, I hope that's the right, I hope that's the right screw that I have. Otherwise I'll be searching for more parts. But I finally found one. And the prices I've seen over the years have been just astronomical. So the finish, the grain, everything, it's just beautiful. And again, all original, all Ruger. And again, the aftermarket imitations, I guess, copies are, some of them are very beautiful and very expensive. So when I found this, and I have a Ruger number 1B with this particular type of forend, I thought to myself, hey self, let's give this a try and see if we can do this. So the object is to replace the Bell and Carlson composite stock from 1991 with this particular walnut version. And if this doesn't go to plan, then I will be selling this walnut version. So if anybody has a Ruger number one, and a number 1B actually, and needs a walnut, some walnut furniture, you may be in luck. So we'll see how successful I am. I am not going to do this on screen. I will not video it. I'll do obviously this is the before, and then I'll try and do the after, but no way am I going to try and do this real time. I think this will be a little, I mean, complexity wise, it's this bolt, and it's the bolt, or would be a bolt that goes in here once I remove this pad like I did the other pad. So in theory, you know, it's relatively straightforward. We all know theory versus reality. So we'll be back at some point. And we are back. So couple thoughts. Good news, bad news. The good news is it was just 2 bolts. Well, 2 bolts and 2 screws. That hex bolt that was in here is actually the bolt that's in here. So that little note that I stuffed back into this stock, so just for provenance sake, is I don't know what it goes with, maybe the original stock. So the good news is this came off, you know, loosen that bolt, this is off. Same thing with, and I'm holding this up for a couple of reasons. Let's see. Same thing with this stock. Once you took these 2 ends off, as I did before, you have a 7/16 inch bolt, which luckily has a slot for a screwdriver, because I don't have. I had a 7/16 ratchet that could get in here, but not long enough, because the wood stock has a length of pull that is about a good 1.25 inches longer. So the good news is it came off okay, very easy. This fit nice in terms of snug, and again the bolt went in without any problem, and that was already there. The bad news is it's not a perfect fit. And that's because, and this, not a bad fit here, not a bad fit here, you see, actually you can't right here. The worst is right there. So obviously this is not the stock that came with it. And I knew this going in, and I'm okay with the trade-off because the, I'll go back and look at the video of this, and I don't remember if this was a better fit. I want to say it was a decent fit, but I'll go back and look to see if the lines are, you know, any better or not, because I honestly can't remember. But this is something I can live with because I think that it makes the rifle simply stunning when you look at it as a whole, and you just soak in that beautiful, rich Ruger walnut. And now it's back to more of an original form, maybe not original in terms of the original stock, but I did look the serial number up, and when the note said older receiver, this was 1968. So this was 31 years before the stock, and 31 plus another 22. So, you know, this is an old, this is a 50 some odd year old rifle that is in absolutely phenomenal condition. And I will say that when I own 30-06. In fact, that was my first Remington 700 was in 30-06, first bolt action. This bad boy has a kick to it, and everything functions, function test, all beautiful. This puppy with this stock and this, even this rubber's kind of soft. This was a shoulder breaker. And my Remington 700 in 30-06 isn't as much as a shoulder breaker. So we're going to take this out, and I have some 30-06 reloads. Again, I think it's stunning. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous stock. And I'll say we're 92% fit, because it could have been worse. Could have been a lot worse. So I will take this as a win. And we are back to firearm stuff.